And this morning, I want to give a bit more attention to just two characters who play their part, Mary and Joseph. And particularly giving a little bit more attention to Joseph. Mary does play a part in our carols. We found quite a few carols with Mary mentioned. But just Silent Night with Mary and Joseph, looking on protectively of the child Jesus. Tradition has it that Mary was very young and Joseph was a much older man. And that was not so unusual. What was unique was their child, Jesus, Son of Man and Son of God. Carpenter of Nazareth, truly human, and yet who through wooden nails on the cross as Son of God worked our salvation and revealed God's immense, eternal, infinite love for his creation. Mary carried Jesus in her womb. Joseph accompanies her, protects her from disgrace or worse, and then takes her to Bethlehem, the city of David, there to register, there to be validated as of the line of David, of the line of Joseph. He is legitimized in the eyes of the law, of religion, of the empire. This is Jesus, Son of David, son of Mary and Joseph. Mary gives birth to Jesus. Joseph was there with her. Were there others helping along? Some midwife from Bethlehem had run in, another woman in the village, perhaps. But Joseph was there. And if Mary's pain and anguish was turned to joy, how much, well, Joseph too, all that anxiety for his young wife vanished in the wonder of new life, of this tiny new creature, this baby Jesus. Was it Joseph who found the manger for Jesus to be placed in the warmth of the straw that cold night? Mary fulfilled the words of Isaiah, the promise of God's eternal sign. A maiden will conceive and give birth to a son, and they will call him Emmanuel. And Matthew translates for his Greek readers, Emmanuel, which means God with us. This is a great name, God with us. This is what we need in the coldness of our British winter and the coldness of our world at this time. God is with us. If there's one word to take home, it is Emmanuel. Jesus is Emmanuel. Not just for you, but for all in the depth of winter, the depth of human anguish today. Emmanuel, God with us. This incarnation is such a mystery that Christians of the Orthodox and Catholic traditions have long called Mary the Mother of God. Some of us find that very difficult to get our heads round. And yet somehow in that child, Jesus, human and divine, meet. And the very human experience of childbirth, with all its pain and joy, is somehow the means of God coming right into our midst. And not just into our midst, but into our hearts and into our flesh and bones. Mary fulfills the sign, Emmanuel, the great name we can apply to Jesus. But it is Joseph who names Jesus, not using his own name. As the 11th son of Jacob, the name Joseph was an honoured one within Jewish tradition. And normally, the father would give his firstborn, the first son, his own name, Joseph. But, which means he will add, so a very odd name, isn't it? He will add. The 11th son, I guess, he added to the family even more. But instead, Joseph gives the child the name Jesus. God is salvation. The two names for you to take home today. Emmanuel, God is with you. God is with us. God is with the world. And God is salvation. God saves in Jesus. Jesus, Emmanuel. Mary feeds Jesus, keeps Jesus warm in her arms and on her breast. But perhaps Joseph fetched food, perhaps lit a fire to warm her, took her and the baby to safety in Egypt. His nature seems to be one of protector, constantly protecting Mary and then Mary and her child. In our Advent book, Recalling the Miracle, the Methodist deacon Laura Evans reflects on the story of Joseph and writes this: in marrying Mary, Joseph takes on the full responsibility for the coming child. Joseph will find a safe place for Mary to give birth, and will listen to God's instruction to take mother and baby to Egypt. Later, he'll join the panic when the 12-year-old Jesus cannot be found on the road home from Jerusalem. And later, he will teach Jesus a carpenter's trade. In short, Joseph will provide for Jesus, protect him from those who do him harm, worry about him, and invest in his future. They may not share the same blood, but Joseph is a true parent to the young Jesus. And that's made me think that too often we have said Joseph, we've not quite known how to describe Joseph. But we can talk of Joseph as Jesus' father. It's not a denial of the incarnation, not a denial that Jesus was God's son, that he had a heavenly father. But whatever the miracle or the humanity of Jesus' conception, Joseph was a father to Jesus. He was there for him. And it's just like adopted children speak of their adopted parents as mum and dad. And that's an honoured word. And so I feel that we need no longer be embarrassed by calling Joseph Jesus' dad. Mary and Joseph kept Jesus safe. They protected the light until his hour should come, the hour of sacrifice, the hour Mary was pierced to the heart as she watched her son die on a cross. Truly, the Son of God dying for the world. And she was there praying with the first disciples as the life of the church blossomed forth in the name of her risen Son, Jesus Christ. The light of God, the light of Christ, rising upon the world once more.